Here's the first tower. The Tower of Annoyingly Simple Trials, or TOAST for short. This tower is the tutorial tower, and if you're trying to play this game, this is the first tower you should do. Since, you know, it's the tutorial and all. Alright. Start of this tower is pretty simple. There's some things you can do to save time, but overall, it's nothing special. Right. You can't go and get the button from here, otherwise you'll get blocked by an invisible wall. I'm only gonna try and explain stuff that the original tower doesn't explain. Alright. So this could kind of be thought of as like a speedrun guide, maybe? Or kind of like, Caco's Declassified JoJo Survival Guide, if you want to go that deep. Alright, yeah. If you wait around long enough to get a high jump, you can skip the block pushing section, which is useful for speedrunning. Alright, so now we're into the mini tower. This part is kind of annoying if you're trying to go fast, but overall it's nothing that bad. Because, like, it's easy to haircut. Okay. The music made the joke before I could. I'm sorry. There's a pretty easy to do skip where you go from this section, go all the way over to here and skip most of the floor, but I'm just gonna try and show it the intended way. I'm just letting, most of the time if I do a skip in this series, it's just letting you know that the skip exists. Unless it makes the tower easier than not doing it. Alright. Okay. So now here's something that I really would have liked to know when I started playing. So, for a kill brick, the amount of time that, like, the speed at which you drain your health is determined by how old the server is, mostly. So, like, an older server, it's gonna drain, like, an older server is gonna make it drain slower than it would on a newer server, because the kill brick hasn't been used as much on the newer server, so it can drain faster. Or something like that. I might be completely wrong, that's just what I remember being told. So that basically makes speedrunning this kind of RNG dependent to get any runs going. More simple stuff. I would demonstrate what happens if you get pushed by a platform, but I don't want to have to edit the recording, or just have to split the recording up, so like, I stop recording here, and then I start recording when I get back to where I was. And I don't want to have to put it together because I suck at video editing. Alright. More simple stuff. And this is where it explains that kill bricks don't kill you automatically, which, I mean, you already saw me walk through the kill bricks, so I don't really need to explain that. This is a pretty simple maze, just follow the bricks that are lit. Right. You're supposed, okay, so for this, you're supposed to go into the fourth tower to grab the ladder, but you can just grab it from the third. More simple stuff. I don't know what they're talking about with that jump being easy to mess up. You can literally just hold forward, not jump, and you still make it easily. My throat's dry. I should have just drank water before recording. Oh yeah, also, if you fall down, like, around here, it'll take you back to this. Do not get used to that. Most towers don't have something like, most towers have no safety nets. Some of them do after, like, a certain amount of floors. Like, I know the old, like, I know Tower of Danger Trickery after, like, floor 5, I think, has the safety floors, but most towers just don't. Which is half the point of the game. You have no checkpoints for 90% of the towers. And most of the ones that do have checkpoints are easier towers anyway. You can get on top and skip all that, but I just kind of want to show a method that those people use for doing tightropes. So you go into the first person mode by zooming in your camera, and then you make sure that the cursor lines up with the tightrope. Like, you make sure that your cursor is actually on the tightrope itself. It's hard to explain, but once you know what I'm trying to say, it's very easy to do tightropes consistently. Or you can just YOLO them, that works too, especially if you're trying to speedrun this game. This section gets darker the longer you stay in it. I used to think it got darker based on, like, how far into it you were, but no, you just need to get by it fast. Also, there's a secret platform you can go on that makes that section way easier. Yeah, like, it's easy to see now, but in the dark, it's really hard to see, so, yeah. If you can't go on the zipline for whatever reason, you can just walk here. There's another hidden trust there that takes you up to the advanced tutorial, but I'm just gonna show this. These are basically the one-row platforms, but there's no indication that they tilt. That sounds unfair, but once you get used to the game more, you just kind of get used to it. The feeling of crafts being unlabeled. Hell, there's some entire towers where that's like half the points. Alright. Now for something that... Okay, so... Normally, if you try and go across the section, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do that because you don't have shift lock enabled. Now, what's shift lock? Okay. So, let me go to the settings, and then normally it'll have a shift lock switch set to off. I turned this on. If you want to play any obby games, shift lock is basically a prerequisite. So what shift lock does is it almost kind of makes your control similar to if you're playing a first-person shooter like Doom or something. If you move your mouse around, it'll move the camera around, and more importantly, you can move left and right. While if you don't have shift lock turned on, you have to turn around and then it'll move in the direction. So with shift lock turned on, you can do this, which makes sections like that doable. Okay, so now for something that's kinda nerve-wracking for new players. So there's this wall here, right? You can't jump over it. Most of the time, well, this time you can if you get a high jump, but most of the time you can't. So what you have to do is you have to go around the wall, and then you have to turn back, and then you have to go back around it again, like that. We call this a wraparound, or just a wrap for short, because you wrap around the wall, essentially. Pretty self-explanatory. Now for something that I am very bad at, which is wall clips. You have to right-click your mouse so that it'll drag the camera over. And then you have to make sure that it's clipping into your head, so like, most of the time, if you move the camera around, it's gonna look like this, but if you move it to a section where you're looking at your head, it'll look like this. So once you're at this section, you should be able to press shift. If you set it up right, you should press shift, and then you're on the other side of it. You kinda need to make it so that you're, like, this part of your, like, my model kinda makes it easier to demonstrate, so, like, part of it is clipping into the wall, so... Like, it's clipping more to this part of the wall than that. It's clipping more to the main part of the wall than the side parts of the wall, more or less. Okay, now for wall hops, or wall jumps, or wall hugs, or whatever you want to call them. The closest thing I can equate this to is, like, wall jumping in the first Super Mario Bros. Game. For whatever reason, if you move your camera like this over a wall that has different color different sections to it. Like, most of the time, there'll be different colors. Like, it's the transition between two floors. If you move your camera around, so, like, you move it to one direction, and then you move it back to where it originally was, you'll wall jump off of it. It's hard to explain with words, but once you learn how it works, it's easy to understand. There's probably tutorials out there that explain it better than I can. Alright. So now you have to press this button. But there's also this button, which puts a wall up there, but it also lets you go into the shortcut. If you press this shortcut, then it'll take you to the end of the level. So, yeah. The buttons are also on a time limit, but, you know, you'll probably already played this tower. You're just trying to make sure I give good advice if you're watching this. So the speed panel from floor 3 comes back, but there's a time limit on it. Most of the time, if you see a speed panel in this game, it's gonna have a time limit on it. You'll rarely get an unlimited speed panel, if at all, past toast. Alright. So now it'll teleport you to the end, and that's the tower pretty much. So that's it. Be sure to leave a like if you thought the video was good, leave a dislike if you thought it was bad, comment with any feedback you have, and maybe even stay by. See you in the next video. See you in the next video you decide to watch. I can't even speak. I can't even do an outro correctly. Ah!